Steal my food? Enjoy the diarrhea. Back when I was in college, I rented a room in an apartment with shared kitchen and bathroom. The landlord didn't care who he rented to, and after moving in, found that the two guys I was sharing the place with were heroin addicts and would steal any food in the cupboards or fridge. I tried confronting them about it, but each one would just blame the other. Cue the petty revenge. I bought some brownie mix in a pack of X-Lax, baked the brownies with about 12 doses in the pan, figured they'd eat one or two, get the runs, and I'd have a good laugh about it and tell them to leave my food alone. Imagine my surprise when I came home a couple days later and found every single brownie gone. I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of puking followed by dry heaving. It went on for a while and I worried that they'd need to go to hospital. The next day I asked one of them if they'd got sick and he replied that he felt like everything in his body had tried to get out by any path all at the same time. I never told him it was me because the result was way more extreme than I'd meant.
And now, let's see what other madness Reddit has cooked up for us.
Steal my table? Enjoy paying my bill. So many years ago I was at a popular bar in my home city during a Saturday afternoon. I was sitting at a bench table on my own enjoying my beer and burger alone and enjoying myself. Now it gets fairly busy and sharing tables isn't uncommon. A guy and his two mates ask to sit with me while they wait for another table. As it's a sports bar, I was chilled. He and his mate sat down and I thought that was that. Next thing I know, the other table leaves and instead of the three of them moving to that table, 10 of his friends arrive. He asks me to leave. I said no as I was there to watch an international rugby game. So now I'm squashed in at this table, let's call this table 21 going forward. So I didn't move and the guys kept on getting more drunk and ordered food etc. I walked to the bar to get myself a drink and the barman says, "Which table?" I said table 21. Every time a waiter ordered for them I would grab the waiter and say, "Did you get the XYZ drink or the ABC steak?" Which they added on thinking it was for the table but actually for me. The game and festivities went on for 7 hours. I had ordered 7 drinks. 3 starters and had an extra main. For the sake of comparison I only paid $20. The stuff I ordered was $50 on top of what I paid. Eventually I go get my bill, my table's bill, original table, and saw my first drink and burger on it. I pay it and go home. TLDR, steal my table, I will make you pay for it.
If you thought that was crazy, wait until you hear this next one.
Never bring food to the potlucks. Everyone hates you. I worked at a call center and we all sat in teams of between 8 to 12 people. One of the guys on my team was the type that never brought anything to the team potlucks but would eat more than anyone more often than not. We also had potlucks at least once a month on our team, maybe more. In November of that year, the management held a competition to see which team could donate the most money for a local shelter or something like that. One guy on our team wanted to win so badly, no idea why. The prize was a pie from this local bakery. So nothing crazy. He just wanted to win. Long story short, every person on the team donated aside from one. The last night, it was neck and neck with another team that had another person that was also way too competitive. Anyway, he was asking for everyone to look for change in our desks or our cars. So, of course, the guy that never brought food to a potluck was the one that hadn't donated. We asked him if he had change on him. He said he did, but he wasn't donating. And I quote, "Not even a quarter." This guy was a real piece of work. I should also say I could not stand this guy. I could go all day, but think Dwight from The Office, but no redeeming qualities at all. He used to clip his toenails at his desk. So we won thanks to our crazy guy going to an ATM, I'm not kidding, So the team decides we want a cheesecake. I decided I didn't want D-Bag to have any. I sent the team an email saying something along the lines of, "We won. Anyone that donated is welcome to some cheesecake." Within 5 minutes my manager is pulling me aside and saying I can't exclude anyone at potlucks. Which was the rule. I explained this was different because everyone donated money to a charity and it was a reward. Long story short, my manager surprisingly agreed with me. So all day, every time I get up I see D-Bag staring at that cheesecake in the middle of our area. At the end of the day, there were 1 or 2 pieces left, and the dude was just sitting there waiting for everyone to leave so he could take it. I was second to last there, and it was obvious what he was doing. I know this was petty AF, but I picked the last pieces up and mashed them into the garbage can while making eye contact with him. I got in trouble the next day cause he was a little bitch and complained. It was worth it though. It's not always easy to get guys like that back, but I jump if I ever see one. Edit. I've seen quite a few people ask if it's possible he was poor or something like that. That was not the case. I also realized that seems like a lot of potlucks. It was, but not everyone contributed every time. As a team we understood it's not realistic every time, but there was always about 70% of people contributing each time. But this guy never brought anything ever, then would fill 2 plates overflowing and be first in line. I promise you he had this coming, huh?
Alright, let's dive into the next story and see what else Reddit has in store for us.
Revenge 9 months after being made redundant. So I worked in a technical support team based at a client site late in the 90s. One of my colleagues, bit of a dickhead, didn't like sharing information, left our company and went to work directly for the client. Okay, it happens. Some months later I had an interview to also work for the client. I absolutely killed the interviews, whole day of various tasks with a dozen people, until it got to the final interview that this ex-colleague was also asking questions. I found out later that I did not get the job because ex-colleague had said I asked too many questions at work. Well duh, yes, I am going to ask questions about specific issues if I know you know the answer instead of guessing. Anyway, some months later, it was early December, everyone turned up at the site as normal only to be called into a meeting with our boss who must have flown in that morning and the main client manager. Within 10 minutes we were escorted to our desks to collect personal belongings and escorted off-site, made redundant on the spot. It seems our ex-colleague had managed to cause enough issues and blame his old colleagues that the client, his new boss, cancelled our support contract. It took me 3 months to get a new job and I had to work and live away from home during the week. A few months into this job I saw the ex-colleague go into my manager's office. I wanted to punch him there and then. But anyway, I waited until he was leaving and made sure to pass him and throw a quick hi as he was leaving. Pikachu face describes it perfectly, even if it wasn't a thing back then. After he left I went into my manager's office and he confirmed he was interviewing him. I asked if he asked ex-colleague on why he left previous job. He said no. Yeah, this boss was not too bright. As it happens, I knew why ex-colleague was sacked not long after the rest of us were made redundant, taking his secretary away on conferences/training courses etc. that she had no business being at. Yes, he was married. So in the end ex-colleague was not offered a role at the company. In the end I left the company after 6 months so I could work closer and be home every night, but will always be grateful to that company for giving me the opportunity to get one over a guy who had got me made redundant. Since I cost him financial hardship for a while longer as he did not get the job, I am not so sure how petty this was, but made me happy anyway.
Alright, let's dive into the next story and see what else Reddit has in store for us.
Steal my time and tell me what you owe me? Sure thing. I posted this in another sub years ago, but reading some of the works of art in this wonderful Schadenfreude Fest has inspired me to share it again. Apologies if some of you have seen it before. Back in college, I worked at a gas station. We worked for cash under the table, so it was pretty loose. Another quirk was that we did not clock in and out, but were paid for each 8-hour shift. I worked 4 p.m., midnight, and had a passing friendship with the guy who worked the overnight shift. We attended the same college and had some classes together. Let's call him Dave. Dave had a problem showing up on time. Generally it was 5 to 10 minutes, and we were friends, so I didn't mind too much, but I took to calling his house 15 minutes before my shift ended just to make sure he wasn't dragging his ass. He lived about 15 minutes away. Because I was so affable about him being a few minutes late, he would basically show up at 12:10 on the regular, and it really started to get on my nerves. I wasn't being paid for this time and he was. One night after a particularly horrible shift, I called Dave's house and a mutual friend answered. I asked her if Dave was there and she said yes, but he was in the middle of a game and couldn't come to the phone. Not wanting to vent my rage at her, I just said thanks and hung up. Dave rolled in at 12:30, his latest yet, and I let him have it. I reminded him that he was getting paid for work I was doing and it was completely unfair. He acted kind of annoyed, and interrupted me with, "Just let me know what I owe you on payday." I came up with the idea on the spot and agreed to his terms. I stopped calling him to remind him to leave his apartment and jotted down every minute he was late. The time added up quickly, because without my constant haranguing, he was coming to work even later, generally 15 to 20 minutes late. I was always cheerful and friendly when he finally deigned to come to work, and never mentioned him being late again. Several months later I went to pick up my pay and my weekly schedule. It was printed out, as this was in the olden days, and Dave was at the counter. "Oh hey," I said, "I was hoping to run into you. I need to tell you what you owe me." He rolled his eyes and reached for his wallet. "Oh, no, you misunderstand," I said, sliding my printed schedule across the counter. "I don't want your money. I want your time. You owe me 16 hours of time. Which 2 shifts of mine do you want to take this week?" He tried to argue, but I showed him the records I had been keeping. Every shift, up to the minute. He tried to say he's work for me next week, but I wasn't having it. "I didn't get to choose when I had to work for you. You're lucky I'm giving you some kind of choice, but it has to be this week." Dave worked 7 shifts that week, including a double. He was never late again.
Alright, let's dive into the next story and see what else Reddit has in store for us.
Take up 7 seats with 3 people? Taste my backpack. I might have posted this story somewhere on Reddit and it first happened, but to clarify, this was a few years back in the pre-COVID age, just before Christmas time. Everything that's about to happen is done with a cast and background characters all dressed for winter in heavy clothes. The story. I was on my way home after spending a few months living at a boarding school at the time and was taking the commuter train from the capital to my parents' house. I'd already been traveling by long-distance train for close to 5 hours and was understandably tired. The train arrives, packed up already, and the horde of people pour in. I could have waited 15 minutes for the next train, but it wouldn't have been much better. I get onto the train and spot Karen, 40+ F, and her 2 kids, 8M, were taking up a total of 7 seats on a train that would have been crowded even with 4 more seats free. She made no effort to stop her kids from lying across 2 and 3 seats respectively, even as the train was bursting at the seams with more people standing than sitting. I declared an oath of vengeance, thankfully wearing a big coat and clunky backpack as I was traveling home from boarding school, and took up spot right in front of her, holding on to one of the handles whilst shoving my backpack and ass in her face. I was probably blocking at least part of the view of her phone. Could I have taken my backpack off? Absolutely. It'd have been crowded, but I didn't have to keep it on in a hot-ass train that I then proceeded to make that 20+ minute train ride as miserable as I could for that Karen. Any shaking or rumble of the train, I accidentally bumped my backpack into her face, stepped on her toes, or swung it in front of her face. About 5 minutes in, she tapped my back and I heard her say, "Excuse me. Your backpack is hitting me." As fake apologetic that I could, I turned around, sweeping the straps across her again, and said, "Yeah, it's pretty crowded here. Not a single seat left." Felt amazing to just turn back around, ignoring any response she might have given. I didn't care. I was trying to see if I had a fart in store, but sadly I'd eaten healthy that day. I made sure she did not get to enjoy the next 15 minutes of that ride. Even as seats opened up, I kept the spite up. Could I have tried diplomacy? Yeah. But I felt like she didn't deserve the chance to make things right at the time. She had been on the train longer than I had and it was already full before I got on at the Capitol. Once my stop came up I remember considering following the train until she got off too. There were only 3 or so more stops but it would be more time to try and super scion some gas through my rectum, but I decided to just get off and head home instead. I did notice her glaring at me through the window as I left, so I flashed her a smile, and my middle finger. When I told the story at home I got mixed responses. Dad was proud, younger siblings praised me as a hero and Mom thought I was justified until I flipped her off, which tbh I don't understand. I was stepping on her toes and shoving my public transport backpack in her face, but a finger was too far. So I'll accept any judgment here. I've heard from friends, "Oh, you don't have kids, she was probably tired too." You can't just assault someone for being rude, but they're the minority.
Alright, let's dive into the next story and see what else Reddit has in store for us.
Should have just given me my refund. Should have just given me my refund. I'll try to keep this short. I hired a contractor to come and look at my gas fireplace insert that shuts off on its own after about an hour. They did 4 visits altogether, charged me about $700 for parts and labor, were late for every appointment and was a no-show no-call for one also. After the 4th visit and things still not working, they actually broke it worse for a bit. I asked for a refund. I was told the owner would call me on Monday, this was Saturday, to make things right. The owner in fact did not even try to make things right. He started telling me personal stories about his times with contractors going bad, but things always worked in the end, so he just dealt with it and paid. I'm like, it's been 3 months, it's not working and I've paid. I'd like a refund for the parts that didn't fix anything and the labor to put in those parts. I was fine still paying for the initial service of them coming to clean it out, even though it didn't fix the issue, just trying to be nice. He said no. I started to get a little cranky at this point, asking why I'm paying for parts that didn't fix the issue. He then said he didn't like my attitude and hung up. I called the next day to try again. When I said I shouldn't have to be going through this crap to get a refund for a service her couldn't provide, hung up on again. I called and left a VM saying that I'd like to speak to someone else if possible, and I'll be leaving them a lovely review on any site I can find them on, as well as the BBB and anyone else who will listen. Still no call back. The following day, after leaving a handful of reviews, I also emailed the local news who has people that will go after contractors that screw people over. I get a call from them, tell them my story and they're very interested. He tells me he'll call them and call me back. About an hour later I get a call saying they'll give me a refund, but I need to remove all reviews I left for the company and I'm to write them a letter stating they've been removed and I will not repost them after getting my check. Reluctantly I agree, I need to get the fireplace fixed. I asked the news guy how I'm supposed to get them the letter, by email, text, snail mail, and he said he's ask and get back to me. After a few hours and not hearing anything, I send the contactor a text saying I'm agreeing to their blackmail, but would like to iron out the details. I get a text back saying that once I remove all social media reviews and email them a letter saying I did so and will not repost them, they'll mail my refund. The following day I get a call from the owner to verify my address, even though they've been here 4 times, and to verify the amount of the refund. I wasn't at my desk, so I said I'd have to check, and he said he found my paperwork and he'll write the check for $671.10. Okay, I only asked for about $500. I then decided to tell them if they want to try to be the bully bad guy, do it right. I originally agreed to take down all the reviews, but your texted demanded I only take them down from social media sites. So the review on Google, Angie's List, and any other site that isn't a social media site will be going back up. As well as for trying to make me take them down, I'll be posting it on more sites than I did before. I also let him know I initially only asked for a portion of the refund, but I'm happy to take the whole thing now that he agreed to send it to me. Check should be arriving in mail today. Edit, sorry got the long paragraph, I suck at writing long things. Also, check just arrived in the mail for the full amount. Edit 2 to break it up a bit. Damn, sorry guys.
Ready for more? Here's another wild one that'll blow your mind.
My coworker has it out for me, so my revenge was to do her a favor. I wanted to tell my story of potentially the least effective or potentially most effective petty revenge I performed. I'm a 29F bartender working at a small but very popular pub. I've worked there for over 3 years and have worked my way up to the shifts I want, so I often work 5 to 6 days a week. I worked 6 days straight closing the bar. Which is a lot because unless it's Friday or Saturday I work alone, and we have to clean the entire place, sweep, mop, clean the toilets etc. It's busy and I can sell anywhere between $1,000 to $3,000 a night. One time $3,700 with a busser, but other than that always alone, no help. Server, bartender, host, food runner. Anyways, I close that final night. I do the entire checklist as usual and leave the place clean as I always do. The next day the opener sent out a message around 1 p.m. that said there was a full case of the Pinot upstairs. 1.5 bottle in the fridge. I have a bottle on ice for a couple that specifically came in for the Pinot. If we are super low stock, have a quick gander upstairs, thumbs up. This employee gets 1 shift a week. She has proven to not be the strongest and completely has it out for me. Stocking the wine is a day shift job. When she got there at 11:30 a.m. she could have taken a gander in the fridge and stocked accordingly. So here is the petty revenge. I question whether this was actually revenge or just satisfying to me. So if I close and know she's opening, I will put the chairs up, and we don't put the chairs up. But even though putting the chairs up is annoying as hell, if she's gonna complain about my close, then I better do a thorough job. When we worked the next time together she acted like I didn't exist. Like I wasn't there. I didn't do anything. That's what bothered me the most. Then guess who needs a shift covered that weekend? Her, of course. So who took me? Me, of course. I felt satisfied with the fact that as much as she wants to hate me there I was to help her out. So, is that even petty revenge? You tell me.
That's all for today, folks. If you enjoyed, hit that thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe for more wild Reddit stories. I'll see you in the next one. Take care and have an amazing day. Ooh, ooh, ah, ah.